Baki Hanma is a 13-year-old boy who is about to fight some delinquents. Why, you might ask? The thing is, his father, Yujiro Hanma, is the strongest man on earth, and it's his son's mission to become just as strong, no matter what it takes. His mother, Emi Yakizawa, helps him in this. Though she is madly in love with Yujiro, she has no love for Baki and only assists him with training to make him stronger. She is the one who paid these thugs to fight Baki. Let them have it. Even though he's strong, he could only take down 37 of them. Kuriyagawa was watching this fight, by the way. Roughly speaking, he's Emi's minion. He was the one who organized this brawl. He also forced the head of one of the mafia groups to fight Baki in the future. This mafioso's name is Hanayama, and at 15 years old, he is already considered one of the strongest in the city. He easily handles every opponent, and only Yujiro is considered stronger than him. This fact bothers the young mafioso, so he agrees to fight Baki, hoping to eventually confront his father. Baki trains in a special lab, but realizing that such training won't make him as strong as his father, he decides to destroy everything there and find a new way to become stronger. While he's thinking about this, he encounters Yuri Tchaikovsky, a professional boxer who is the absolute champion in his weight class, in a park. It has come to the point where Yuri has to travel to various places just to find a sparring partner who isn't afraid to fight him. Baki decides to challenge him to a fight, but of course, he is knocked out with a single punch. It was his first defeat, after which he runs home in tears. Baki decides he needs to follow in his father's footsteps, so he goes to the mountains. There he meets Anda, a longtime friend of the Hanma family. Once he trained there with Yujiro, who also came to these mountains to become stronger. Baki tells him that he came here to defeat Ashazaru, a 3-meter demon considered the king of this mountain. Yujiro, by the way, killed one of such demons. Baki confronts the monster but begins to feel intense fear. Anda rushes to his aid, but Ashazaru inflicts severe wounds on him, and only fire manages to scare off the monster. Due to the injury, they had to call an ambulance, which transported Anda to the hospital by helicopter. Baki realizes that he needs to overcome his limits and break through the barrier restraining human strength, so he jumps off a cliff. In mid-air, he feels as if everything has slowed down, allowing him to dodge the rocks and safely land in the water. Becoming stronger, he headed back to Ashazaru, and during the battle, he even managed to take out its eye. They fought fiercely, and Baki suffered severe injuries. Anda, discharged from the hospital, rushed to help with a rifle to kill the monster, but Baki stopped him. He said that both he and the monster had suffered severe injuries, yet they continued to fight. They respected each other as opponents, and therefore, no one should interfere in their battle. Baki finally manages to defeat Ashazaru, and the monster simply leaves after the defeat. He takes no pleasure in this victory because Baki severely injured the monster and even took out its eye, even though Ashazaru was merely defending itself. Feeling guilty, Baki heads to the monster's lair, where he apologizes and gives it a gift, the head of its wife, which was killed by Yujiro long ago. In return, the monster gives him a fang it lost during the fight with Baki. After that, he goes to his mother's house, where she shows him Tchaikovsky's recent middleweight championship fight. She, by the way, tried to bribe him with 100 million yen to fight her son, but Tchaikovsky wasn't interested in the money, so he refused. After his victory, he wanted to win in the heavyweight category too, so he gained 15 kilograms in 2 months. But Baki didn't like that. He said that the old Tchaikovsky was much faster and more dangerous. He went to the gym where Yuri trains and said that he considers boxing an imperfect sport and definitely does not see it as a martial art. But despite this, he has great respect for Tchaikovsky and will support him to the end. These words deeply affected Yuri and the others in the gym, and they tried to show the boy how hard boxers can hit the punching bags, but Baki tore it apart with one punch, showing that at 13, he was stronger than everyone in that gym. The day of Tchaikovsky's fight for the heavyweight champion title arrives, but before entering the ring, his team encounters Hanayama. They start fighting, and the 15-year-old mafia boss grabs Tchaikovsky's arm, crushing his joints and causing tendons and veins to burst. Despite such injuries, Tchaikovsky continues the fight, because he's a jigit, and they are known to fight to the very end. However, Hanayama ultimately finishes him off, resulting in Tchaikovsky being taken to the hospital. Baki found out about this, and went to avenge the boxer, not noticing the guards along the way. With a single punch, Baki knocked Hanayama to the ground, something no one had managed before. However, their fight was interrupted by the police, who arrived in response to a call. Baki declared that he would be ready to fight him anytime. This audacity enraged Hanayama, causing him to crush his car into a heap of metal. Then Baki visits Tchaikovsky in the hospital and tells him that he recently saw Hanayama. Despite Baki's legs trembling with fear, he eagerly awaits their next meeting. Baki understood that the mafia boss could attack him at any moment, and that's exactly what Hanayama did in the shopping mall. Due to the element of surprise, he managed to beat up Baki, and at one point even threw him out of a window to kill him. But somehow grabbing onto a rope, Baki climbs back up and retaliates by beating Hanayama. Afterward, Hanayama takes off all his clothes and shows everyone the tattoo on his back, which all the men in his clan get in memory of a wandering man who protected his ancestor and thereby saved the family line. Yes, too mysterious. They started fighting, and Hanayama used the same technique on Baki as he did on Tchaikovsky, but to everyone's surprise, Baki could still move his fingers, indicating his tendons weren't damaged. They fought on equal footing, exchanging powerful blows and techniques. Whenever it seemed like one was about to win, the other would get up and continue the battle. At one point, Baki felt like he had won. After that hit, when it seemed to everyone that it was all over, Hanayama falls to the floor exhausted, but at that moment, Baki gathers his last bit of strength and staggers towards the mafia boss. They acknowledge each other and express gratitude for the fight. But suddenly, Yujiro himself bursts in, whom Hanayama had dreamed of fighting, though it turned out the difference in strength was too great. Yujiro effortlessly defeated Hanayama. Even though he was exhausted after the battle with Baki, Hanayama stood no chance. Then, with a single slap, the father puts Baki to sleep and then heads to Akizawa, scolding her for not being able to make Baki a great fighter in 3 years, and he added that he wants to test and challenge his son himself. To give him more motivation, he killed Yashizaru, whom Baki held in high regard. He brought the monster's head to him and said that in 1 month he would come to fight him. Yujiro wants him to be fully motivated for this fight because if he disappoints his father, Yujiro will deal with him as well. Baki consumed the teeth of Yashizaru and then met Stridem, a friend of Yujiro. Stridem informed Baki that if he didn't want to be defeated by his father, he needed to train. Stridem mentioned a group of mercenaries in Hokkaido who see a battlefield in everything, and for Baki to become stronger, he needed to defeat them. But Stride, without realizing it, sent him on a suicidal mission. It turns out that among these mercenaries is someone named Gaia, who is considered a god of war, and only Yujiro is strong enough to compete with him. After landing with a parachute, the mercenaries immediately captured him, but decided not to kill him yet. They tied him up and left him by a tree. Once he freed himself, Baki started tackling them, one by one, fighting and simultaneously learning something new from each fighter. He took down everyone, but suddenly, the weakest of the mercenaries began to scream wildly. It turns out that he has two personalities. The first is Nomura, the personality of an ordinary soldier, and the second is that of the god of war, which emerged after a certain incident. During one operation, he was captured and sentenced to execution by firing squad. At the moment when dozens of soldiers fired their weapons, he started producing a strong adrenaline rush. Gai. They didn't kill Maji because his comrades arrived just in time, but after that incident, he lost all his hair and learned to control his adrenaline release, which keeps his body in perfect shape despite not training at all. They started fighting, but Maji could not land a single hit, because during the adrenaline release, Gaia can completely anticipate and read all of his opponent's actions. Gaia beats him severely, delivering heavy blows, and after throwing him to the bottom of the river, everyone thought Baki was dead, but thanks to endorphins, he regains consciousness. Oh. Endorphins. They are produced when the pain becomes unbearable. Thanks to them, a person stops feeling pain and experiences an incredible surge of strength. They start fighting again, but Gaia stops the fight. He reprimands Baki for how badly he's worn out his body, saying that his arms and legs don't respond because he hasn't taken care of them. After that, Gaia is about to finish him off, but Baki's body begins moving on its own. Thanks to countless training sessions, his instincts have reached perfection. Because of this, he defeats Gaia, pressing on his carotid artery and causing him to lose consciousness. When Gaia regained consciousness, he acknowledged his defeat and invited Baki for a meal as a sign of friendship. They informed Yujiro about their battle, saying that Baki defeated the god of war himself, someone only Yujiro was considered capable of matching. To this, he replied that Gaia is weak and cannot compare to him in any way. To prove it, Yujiro headed towards the Prime Minister, having beforehand announced his intention to kill him. There he encounters dozens of armed soldiers, but of course, he simply doesn't notice them. Reaching the Prime Minister, he tells him he has lousy security and then escapes out the window. Yujiro met with Akizawa. She tried to get close to him, but he rejected her and added that if Baki disappoints him, he will wipe his feet with Akizawa. To his distressed mother came Baki. She started hitting him for not becoming as strong as his father at 13 years old. He asked her if she would love her son if he could defeat Yujiro. Will you love me even a little? But she merely called him an idiot, beat him, and ran away. In despair, Baki rushes into a group of 3 thugs, who start to beat him up. But at that moment, Hanayama arrives. He supports him, and says that he's even a little envious, as his own mother passed away not long ago. She was ill with cancer, and wouldn't have been able to bite her son, even if she wanted to. After the conversation, Baki started to prepare for the fight, which was scheduled for midnight. But before that, he decided to warm up for 12 hours. Tchaikovsky and Hanayama helped him with this, as they came to support Baki in his battle with his father. They began sparring, but during During that time, Baki had gotten much stronger and easily handled the mafia boss and the boxing champion. Mercenaries also came to him, but without their leader Gaia, as he had been given a mission. He was supposed to deal with Yujiro for what he did with the Prime Minister, but as expected, he was brutally beaten. Yujiro arrived at the fight location, and with him was Akizawa. Baki starts hitting his father with all his might, but instead of fighting back, Yujiro approaches those who came to support Baki. He says that he is grateful to them for making his son a strong man. He also mentions that Akizawa did not disappoint him, and that Baki met his expectations. After that, Yujiro decides to fight his son. However, after 2 blows, Baki loses consciousness. It seemed the fight was over, but Yujiro decided to finish him off and began beating his son's unconscious body. A bad mother, isn't she? Maybe, but it turns out she has feelings after all. She decides to stand up for her son, but Yujiro didn't appreciate such a gesture, and he fatally embraces her. He didn't stop there and started beating everyone present on the battlefield. Having lost his mother, Baki decides that he must, at all costs, become strong enough to defeat Yujiro with his bare hands. To achieve this, he leaves Japan for 2 years, aiming to return even stronger. All this time, he spent in Brazil, defeating one fighter after another. There, he heard that in Tokyo, there are underground fights where the strongest fighters from all over the world gather, but to get there, he needs to meet with the organizer of these fights. I want to meet Mr. Tokugawa, did you hear that? He wants to see me. Of course, they knew who Baki was and whose son he was, so they really wanted him to compete. Baki rented a room from a woman whose husband also participated in underground fights, and after one of those fights, he came home and died with a smile on his face. She also has a daughter, Kozue, who goes to school with Baki, and she has no idea what he does because Baki carefully keeps it a secret. What he hides is that over the past 3 years, while renting a room from this woman, he has become the champion of underground fights. We see Doppo, the master and head of the karate school. Tokugawa asks him to invite his best student, Kato, to the underground fights. Kato used to practice at the karate school, but got bored and left to work as a bodyguard. However, he found that boring too, so he returned to Doppo to find strong opponents. That's why he really wants to fight Baki, who, by the way, is about to have a match with Kyoshu, who is known for his fighting style. The point is that his body parts are so sharp that he's able to strike like a knife or sever the nerves of his opponent. That's exactly what he did to Baki, disabling his right arm. But despite such an injury, Baki continued to fight valiantly. Then Kosho severed the nerve responsible for vision in his right eye. Naturally, after that, Baki started taking some serious hits. But when Kosho attempted to do the same to his left eye, Baki caught him in a strong hold. He threatened to break his arm if Kosho didn't surrender. However, Kosho had no intention of losing like that, so he urged Baki to go ahead and break it. To avoid ruining his opponent's career, Baki decides to just knock him out, thus winning the match. No one at school knows about Baki's achievements, so the bullies start trying to extort money from him. Kozue stands up for him, though it doesn't help, and they have to run away. In the evening, when she was in the park with her friend, those thugs harassed her. They wanted her to repay them with herself for interfering with the scheme to scam Baki for money. But with the help of her friend, Baki finds them, and after breaking their wrists, saves Kozue. Baki is the champion, and many fighters want to battle him, but his next opponent is determined by Tokugawa. Therefore, some of them decide to fight each other for the right to face Baki. At that moment, Toba arrives and takes down all of them. Incidentally, he is Baki's next opponent. Toba had been doing wrestling for 30 years, and the fight with Baki was supposed to be his last. That's why he wanted to win, because as he said, a wrestler has no right to lose outside the ring. 96 kilograms? Here he comes. Oh, what a sturdy American. Toba started tossing Baki around like a child, to which Baki responded with precise punches, knocking Toba to the ground. But Baki, he got up and continued the fight, utilizing wrestling techniques. And to win, he plans to use his signature move. But the problem is, age is catching up with him. Toba has a bad knee, and such a move would harm him. When he tried to use it, Baki managed to free himself in the air, and when Toba landed, he injured his knee, making his strikes incredibly weak. Baki began to support him, and out of respect, he struck Shichi. He struck Toba's injured knee, showing that he fought him with full strength. Everyone enjoyed these fights, and the audience congratulated both fighters. At that moment, Yujiro appeared in the ring and knocked Baki out with a single touch. Taking the opportunity, Doppo stepped out and challenged the Pelican, who once inflicted those head injuries on him. Baki tried his best to dissuade him from this fight, saying that Yujiro could kill him, and to convince him, he decided to fight him himself. But Doppo demonstrated his skill and assured Baki that he would give it his all. The fight between Yujiro and Doppo will take place before the match between Baki and Kureha. a doctor who has mastered anatomy and thus made his body perfect. The doctor, by the way, is the older brother of Koshu. Before the fight between Yujiro and Doppo, Baki was very nervous, which affected his ability to warm up and get into shape. And he's nervous for a good reason, because even though Doppo is a strong opponent who managed to hold his own against the giant, Yujiro holds the title of the strongest on earth for a reason. He allowed Doppo to land some hits, but as soon as he saw Baki, he decided not to hold back and killed Doppo. The defeated was immediately taken to a medic who tried to resuscitate him, but couldn't get his heart to beat. Then Kureha, considered the best doctor in Japan, arrived. He gave a lecture on life to those present and performed a direct heart massage, saving Doppo from death. Kureha noticed that Baki was panicking due to the situation and wouldn't be able to fight at full strength. But despite this, Kureha intended to kill him. Everyone thought that Baki was not warmed up and his muscles were cold. But it turns out that before the fight, one of Kureha's patients came to see him. She claimed that the doctor experimented on them. They spent all their money on the operation, but Kureha didn't try to save them, leaving her and the other victims paralyzed. It's certainly strange that Baki believed her, but her words greatly motivated him, which is why he started beating the doctor from the very first seconds. But as I mentioned, Kureha has mastered anatomy, which allowed him to deliver blows to Baki that knocked him unconscious. By the way, those fighters who really wanted to fight Baki support him during all the battles. When Baki falls, they empathize with him, and when he wins, they rejoice for him. Taking advantage of the situation, Kureha challenges Yujiro to a fight, but as he jumps into the ring, Baki wakes up and asks his father to leave. Yujiro tells that Baki can finish him off with just one punch. With a single blow, he tears his stomach and wins. Due to the injuries sustained, Kureha needed an urgent blood transfusion, and the disabled woman who came to Baki before the fight decided to help him. She got up from her wheelchair and, approaching the doctor, promised to help him. After his victory, Baki decides that he needs to train, so he heads to the mountains for meditation. But what will happen next, we'll find out in the second season, the video of which will be released sometime tomorrow. Don't forget to write in the comments what you think about this anime. We'll see you in the next video.